I went on Twitter and I noticed I don't always see my tweets, but today I looked and I saw a great tweet actually that came from someone who had some great questions. And this all started because I had put a tweet up. I had retweeted somebody's tweet about DC Pride. And there was video of what was going on in DC Pride that looked horrific. There were children there. There were little kids there. There was someone dancing nude, provocatively, going up, doing all sorts of weird things. You can go to my Twitter account and you can see that. And I wrote, "A society in decay treats children this way," which I 100% believe. What's going on right now with respect to kids is despicable, deplorable, horrific. There's going to be lasting consequences and lasting damage if we don't do something here. Well, someone responded, Jason Jones. I don't know Jason at all. He is verified. I have no idea who he works for. I have no idea what he does. But he asked some really, really good questions. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not being sarcastic. I know my Brooklyn sometimes tone. You never know if I'm being honest or not. But I actually really appreciate this because, and I'll get to it in a second, I've been in this business for 10 years. I'm very lucky to have this microphone right now, to have this platform, and I'm doing my own thing for the first time. So there's going to be stuff that I said that someone might look and say, well, wait a minute, but you said this. Answer for yourself. That's totally fine. I love it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to be challenged. I'm here to think. I'm here to explain. I'm here to have that conversation with you. I'm here to be wrong sometimes, which I own up to. As you know, with COVID, I've owned up to that quite a bit. I was wiping down packages, guys, outside my door when COVID started. I was wiping down my groceries. It doesn't get more humiliating than that. And I've shared that many a times with you. So I really appreciate this. I'm not always going to see it, so I apologize if people do it and I don't always answer. But this is really important. People need to be able to ask these questions, and we need to have answers. If I'm going to sit here with this, I need to be willing to have this conversation with you, or it's not a real conversation and then I'm a fraud. So this is what, and I'm going to pull it up. This is what the tweet said. It said, "How do you think we arrived at this critical juncture, Jed? Pray tell." And then below it, there's 4 tweets. And this was research heavy. I mean, that first tweet on the left goes back, the top left goes back to 6/29/13, just to give you a time frame for this one. Okay. So now I've been talking a lot about this stuff we did a show last week where I talked about Drag Your Kids to Pride event in Dallas, which involved drag queens dancing with children, and a lot of the marketing and a lot of the woke politics that's seeking to entangle kids at this point. And a lot of that happens to be regarding the issue of gender. So I've been talking a lot about that and talking about its dangers and how this is wildly inappropriate for children. So I want to go through these tweets and just point out some of the differences and how I feel about these things and why I think these are really important, good questions to ask. So this first tweet I wrote in 6/29/13, "It's Pride weekend in New York City. That means I'll see some of Manhattan's most gorgeous men parade and remember why I loathe Chris Barrett." Chris is gay, openly. That's a joke he and I had for a long time. So yes, well, first of all, let me say this. I've never actually been to a Pride parade where I stood there and that was my purpose. Like, I'm going to the Pride parade. Maybe there was one in college. I have to really think about that. But I hate parades. All of them. I hate the Thanksgiving Day parade. I hate the Pride parade. I hate the Christmas parade. I hate all of them, mostly because when you live in a place like New York City, what that adds up to is horrible traffic and an inability to exist. So I'm not a parade girl. I'm not a parade girl when it comes to anything. However, when you walk around New York City, you see them. You see the Halloween parade. You have to duck and weave around them. And I will say, yes, there are a number of very good-looking gay men out there that still exist. That was a horrible calamity I faced when I was dating in my 20s. That's a reality. So yes, this tweet I stand by. Pride weekend in New York City does mean that. You will see some of Manhattan's most gorgeous men parade. That is 100% true. Let's scroll to the next one. This gets juicy. The next one is from 2/11/15, and I say I get what he's saying, went through the same evolution. Obama, Axelrod mixing it up, my views on gay marriage. This is the evolution of Obama on gay marriage. As you know, many Democrats came out. They were against gay marriage, then they were for gay marriage. This was true. This was honest. This is real. I felt very differently about this initially. I was opposed. And then I was supportive. And I continue to be supportive. To be clear, I 100% support your right as a grown adult as a grown person to make decisions for yourself, to have the freedom to live the life that you want to live, as long as you're not hurting anyone else and as long as you're not asking someone else to pay for it. So I stand by that. I do support. I've been to gay weddings. I have friends that are married, that are straight, that are in very wonderful marriages. I have friends that are married that are straight, that are in horrific marriages that are toxic and problematic for the kids, and they're struggling in them. I have gay friends that are in toxic, horrific marriages where they're struggling and it's problematic. And I have gay friends that are in marriages that are incredibly healthy, that are soon to welcome a child. So my point here is that if you are an adult, I stand by your freedom to live the life you want. So I stand by that tweet. But I do own up to the evolution that I felt differently at one time, and then I changed, which you will see happen. Over the last 12 years I've been in media, you're going to see me change my mind on stuff. You're going to see me say I was wrong. You're going to see me say I feel differently, and here's why. So that was a moment where I was telling you, yes, this is I get it. I get how an evolution like that can happen. That was an honest moment for me. Okay. This is a good one. I mean that sincerely. 425:16. I wrote, to bakers denying gay couples cakes, citing religious freedom. Sin, do you quiz straight couples on whether they have premarital sex before baking? This was a legitimate question. I was struggling with the issue of why don't they want to bake the cake? Is this a good business practice? Is this discriminatory? I ultimately found that I felt, yes, these companies should be allowed to make these decisions. It's a private business. So you should be allowed to make these decisions in the same way that I'm going to talk about a private business actually that doesn't want to adopt pets out to people unless they support gun control. I'm going to talk about why I think that's bad policy. I think this is bad policy too, by the way, not baking a cake for a gay couple that wants to get married. I think it's bad. I just think it's bad policy. Me personally. But do I think they should be allowed to make that decision 100%? But I was legitimately asking, if your problem is, and this was a curious question that I had, if you are legitimately having a problem with people, let's say you are religious, and I respect that 100%. I went to Catholic school, I get it. If that's your belief system and you were actually saying, I don't want to bake a cake for you because I believe you're living in sin, and that's problematic for me, I can respect that line of thinking. I really can. But how do you apply that across the board? I was trying to say there's a lot of people that are going to be living in sin that are going to show up at your door. They're going to want a cake for a birthday. They're going to want a cake for their wedding. Maybe they cheated on someone. Maybe their behaviors aren't going to be in line with God's principles. So I was legitimate. I wasn't even being sarcastic. Again, I know I can come off as sarcastic. Tyler's like, you don't say. But I was legitimately asking that question, like, is this something that's on your mind? If you own a company and you're baking, is this something you think about universally, or is this being targeted toward gay people, in which case it felt discriminatory to me? It felt specific, it felt personal. So I was asking. This was really me asking, like, hey, do we want to think about this? Do we want to give this a pause? Do we want to give this a second? And giving myself a second. And I do this. I think out loud sometimes on Twitter. I kind of throw things out there with question marks. So that was an authentic moment. And my decision that I came to ultimately, and where I sit now, is you should have a right to make these decisions. But I also will tell you when I think it's bad policy. And that's going to happen. So, but a great point to bring up. And I appreciate the screenshots, honestly. That's what Twitter's good for, right? You can go back and just find everything that someone ever said, and it's there. And I believe this is the last one that was pulled. I guess someone had a problem with something I had said on The View, and I felt the need to clarify that I was a big supporter of gay rights here. You should listen better, which, again, the conversation right then, this is from 2016, the conversation that was happening was about gay marriage. Again, I support the right of gay people to marry. I want to go on record and say that. I support it. So that's what I was talking about. I'm a big supporter of gay rights. I want gay people to I don't want them to be discriminated against. I don't want them to be harassed. I don't want them to not be able to get married and build a beautiful, healthy family that, if that's what they so choose to do, that's not up to me. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I don't think anyone should be forced to endorse it. I don't think anybody should be forced to say they agree with it. I don't think anybody should be forced to fund it. But I do think that's how I feel. I am a supporter of people, of humans. And that was the conversation that was having right now. I don't know what I said on The View to make somebody mad. Who knows? I said things on The View to make people mad all the time. But I think it's important. And then later on also, Jason brought up another great point that I want to address here, because I had responded to him and said, I'm going to address these. I'm going to address these on my show. I think I think these are important questions. I think they're good questions. I think they're fair questions. And I'm going to address them. And I think the response I had seen in there to someone was, I agree people can change, but is she just doing this because she's promoting a new show? So I just want to give a second. I am not someone who says what I think people want to hear. And I will tell you, the evidence is in my job history. I would have had much more job security, I promise you, if I had said what people wanted me to say, what the establishment wanted me to do and say. You will notice that there have been times I've been let go. There have been times that I've clashed on air that have been uncomfortable. That's because I don't lie on camera when I tell you what I actually feel. I tell you what I actually feel. I'm being honest with you. So there is no way on God's green earth, and I say this to the person who asked, to Jason, I don't know you, but I appreciate you for bringing these to the table. There is no way I would be sitting here and doing this right now if I didn't want to tell you exactly how I feel in this moment. There's no point. There's no point. I would have just sat where I was. I'd been in numerous positions where I could have just said, what do you need me to say? And I would have said it, and I would have had a great paycheck and great job security. I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I've never been that person to tell you, to say what you need me to say, but I'm not in those spaces. I'm here because I want to tell you how I feel. I want to speak the truth. If you like the short clip, you can catch another one here, or you can catch the full episode right here.